Welcome to the Silver Chains, a werewolf-fated mate romance, where fate is messy, the sparks are wild, and the full moon brings more than fur and fangs. There's snark, steam, and a mate bond neither of them asked for, but can't escape. Buckle up, pack. From haunted hearts to ancient curses, you'll find stories here that pull you in and don't let go. If you're into tales that twist the real and the unreal, you're in the right place. T.M. Sending Nyxen Audiobooks. To my subscribers and listeners, your ears give these stories their second life. Hit that subscribe button and let's dive in. The wolfsbane woven into Grace's bridal crown was meant to symbolize obedience. Instead, it made her nauseous. She stood at the stone altar in the courtyard, surrounded by 200 wolves from the Blackstone and Thornhill packs. The autumn air should have been crisp and clean, but all she could smell was the cloying sweetness of ceremonial roses mixed with the bitter, wrong scent of wolfsbane. Her ivory gown, selected by Marcus's mother, felt like a burial shroud. Breathe, she told herself. Just breathe. Marcus stood beside her, handsome in his formal blacks, his blonde hair perfectly styled. He was saying his vows, words about unity and strength, and honoring the alliance between their packs. His voice was smooth, practiced. He'd probably rehearsed this a dozen times. Grace's wolf whimpered inside her chest. Pledge my protection, my loyalty, and my life to Grace Blackstone, now and forever. Forever. The word echoed in her skull like a death knell. Marcus's father, Councillor Thorne, stepped forward with the silver chain. It gleamed in the fading daylight, each link inscribed with ancient runes. This wasn't just a symbol, it was a binding. Once clasped, the magic would tie her to Marcus in a way that transcended choice. Your vows, Grace, the counsellor prompted, his eyes cold and expectant. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Marcus's hand tightened on hers, not gentle, but warning. His perfect smile never wavered. She started. That's when she felt it. A presence, sudden and overwhelming, like lightning striking too close. Every hair on her body stood on end. Her wolf, resigned and quiet moments before, suddenly surged against her skin, not whimpering, but snarling, fighting. No, her wolf howled. Not him. Never him. Her wolf meant Marcus. It was rejecting Marcus with every fibre of her being. But why? Why now? What has changed? Grace's head snapped up, her gaze pulled across the courtyard, as if by an invisible thread. Through the crowd of witnesses, past the rows of pack members in their formal attire, she found him. He stood at the edge of the gathering, partially shadowed by the ancient oak trees. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that brushed his collar, and eyes that glowed amber even in human form. He wore the black and silver of the North Coast pack, visiting dignitaries, her mind supplied distantly. She'd been told they were coming, but hadn't paid attention. She should look away. She needed to look away. She couldn't. The moment their eyes met, the world tilted. Her breath punched out of her lungs. Heat flooded her body, not uncomfortable, but intense, like her blood had turned to liquid fire. Her skin prickled with awareness. She could suddenly smell him across the entire courtyard, pine and winter storms, and something wild and male that made her wolf keen with recognition. Fated. The word crashed through her mind with absolute certainty. His eyes widened, then flashed bright gold. His jaw clenched so hard she could see the muscle jump even from this distance. His hands curled into fists at his sides. He felt it too. Grace. Marcus's voice was sharp now. Your vows. She dragged her gaze back to him, but it felt like tearing away a piece of herself. Marcus was watching her with barely concealed irritation. He hadn't noticed the stranger. Thank the moon, he hadn't noticed. But someone had. Councillor Helena, standing among the other elders, went very still. Her ancient eyes tracked between Grace and the stranger, widening with recognition. She'd seen this before, centuries ago, when wolves still honoured the old ways. The way Grace's wolf was rejecting Marcus. The way the stranger's wolf was fighting his human form. The invisible pull between them was so strong that even humans could sense the charged air. Fated mates. Helena's weathered face paled as understanding dawned. They just bound a wolf to the wrong mate. The chain wasn't just political, it was going to kill the girl. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but Councillor Thorne was already moving forward with the silver chain, and the moment was lost. Grace's heart hammered against her ribs. The silver chain in Councillor Thorne's hand seemed to pulse with malevolent light. I, Grace Blackstone. Her voice cracked. She swallowed, tasting copper. I pledge myself to Marcus Thornhill. My loyalty, my protection, The stranger, her mate, her true mate, moved. Just a small step forward, as if pulled against his will. A low growl rumbled through the courtyard. It took Grace a moment to realize it was coming from him, from deep in his chest, a sound of pure anguish and rage. Several wolves turned to look. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Grace forced the words out in a rush. My life. Now and forever. The binding, Councillor Thorne announced, his voice carrying across the courtyard. He took her wrist, and Grace's wolf snarled, thrashing inside her. She bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted blood, fighting for control. The councillor's hands were cold as he clasped one end of the silver chain around her wrist. The metal burned on contact. Grace gasped, her knees buckling. Marcus caught her, his arm around her waist, holding her upright. Steady, he murmured in her ear, but there was satisfaction in his tone. Through watering eyes, she watched the councillor secure the other end of the chain to Marcus's wrist. The runes flared bright blue, then settled into a dull glow. The magic took hold. It felt wrong fundamentally, viscerally wrong, like swallowing poison, like drowning. The silver warmed against her skin, sending tendrils of foreign magic creeping up her arm, wrapping around her heart. This wasn't the mate bond she'd heard stories about. The sacred connection the moon blessed her children with. This was a cage. Across the courtyard, her true mate made a sound like a wounded animal. She could feel his pain. Actually feel it, echoing through the incomplete bond trying to form between them. His rage, his desperation. The sensation of something vital being torn away. You may seal the bond, the councillor said. Marcus turned her to face him. His blue eyes glittered with triumph as he leaned in. His lips were cold and dry, the kiss perfunctory. Grace stood frozen, unable to respond, unable to breathe. When he pulled back, she felt nothing. No spark, no connection. Just the burning of the silver chain and the hollow ache in her chest where her true mate bond should have been. The crowd erupted in applause. Through the noise, she heard the snap of branches. When she looked, the stranger was gone. But she could still feel him, a ghost presence at the edge of her consciousness, pulsing with fury and anguish. Getting farther away with each passing second, but not gone, not completely severed. The mate bond, barely formed and already denied, stretched between them like a thread of molten silver. And the silver chain on her wrist burned hotter. Marcus raised their bound hands to the crowd. United in purpose, bound by honor. The packs cheered. Grace tasted blood and wolfsbane, and the bitterness of a future she no longer wanted. Her wolf howled, trapped and raging, while somewhere in the forest beyond, her true mate ran from a bond neither of them could escape. 3 days after the ceremony, Grace couldn't keep food down. She sat at the edge of the massive bed in Marcus's chambers, their chambers now staring at the breakfast tray a servant had brought. Poached eggs, fresh bread, honey from the pack's hives. The smell made her stomach revolt. Her reflection in the vanity mirror across the room looked like a stranger, hollow-eyed, pale as bone. The silver chain on her wrist had left a ring of blistered skin that wouldn't heal. You need to eat something. Marcus emerged from the bathing chamber, already dressed for the day in his councillor blacks. He frowned at the untouched tray. You barely touched dinner last night either. I'm not hungry. Her voice came out hoarse. She'd been awake most of the night, drenched in cold sweat, her wolf clawing at her insides like it was trying to escape her skin. Marcus crossed the room and pressed the back of his hand to her forehead. His touch was clinical, detached. "You're burning up." She was. Her skin felt like it was on fire from the inside out, but she couldn't stop shivering. The silk nightgown clung to her, damp with perspiration. "It's just," she started. But her wolf surged suddenly. Violently. Grace doubled over, gasping, her hands clutching her stomach. It felt like her insides were tearing apart. "Grace?" Marcus's voice sharpened with something that might have been concern. Or annoyance. It was hard to tell. The pain subsided as quickly as it came, leaving her trembling. "Wedding nerves?" she managed. "I'll be fine." It was a lie. They both knew it. Marcus studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he straightened his cuffs. "The Unity Feast is tonight. The North Coast Pack delegation is leaving tomorrow. You need to be presentable." The North Coast Pack. Her heart lurched. Miko. His name was Miko. She'd overheard servants talking. Alpha Miko Brennan of the North Coast Territories. Unmarried. Powerful. Dangerous. Her mate. Just thinking his name made the phantom bond pulse in her chest, a thread of awareness that told her exactly where he was. East Wing, 3 floors down. Close enough that she could almost smell him through the walls, pine and winter storms, and something that made her wolf whine with desperate longing. "I'll be ready," she whispered. Marcus left without kissing her. She was grateful for that, at least. Every time he touched her, her wolf snarled and thrashed. Her body rejected him on a cellular level. The morning passed in a haze of nausea and fever dreams. Grace tried to rest, but the moment she closed her eyes, she felt him. Miko. His rage was a living thing, pulsing through their incomplete bond. His wolf was as violent as hers, fighting the denial of their connection. Around midday, the pain spiked so sharply that she cried out. Her maid rushed in to find Grace on her hands and knees on the floor, retching into a basin, though there was nothing in her stomach to bring up. "Mistress!" The girl helped her back to the bed, her young face creased with worry. "Should I fetch the healer?" No. If a healer examined her, they might sense the mate bond. Might tell Marcus. I need to be alone." The maid left reluctantly, and Grace lay back against the pillows, her skin clammy and grey. She looked at the silver chain on her wrist, at the raw, blistered skin beneath it. The runes still glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Or was that Miko's heartbeat? She couldn't tell anymore. Their pulses were sinking, trying to match despite the magic keeping them apart. Somewhere in the estate, she felt him move, felt his restlessness, his need. She closed her eyes and let herself fall into the connection, just for a moment. Let herself feel him. He was in the training yard. She could sense the exertion, the violence he was unleashing on whatever opponent had been foolish enough to spar with him. His wolf was barely leashed, his control fraying. She felt the impact of his fists, the satisfaction of violence, the way it did nothing to ease the ache in his chest, the ache that mirrored hers. "Stop," she thought desperately, knowing he couldn't hear her. "Stop hurting yourself." But she felt the moment he sensed her attention. She felt him go still. His awareness turned toward her like a compass finding north, and the bond between them flared hot and bright. "Grace." His voice in her head. Or maybe she was imagining it. Maybe she was going mad. "Where are you?" She shouldn't respond. Shouldn't encourage this. But her wolf was dying, and he was the only thing that felt real. East Wing. Marcus's chambers. A wave of pure fury crashed through the bond, possessive, primal. The thought of her in another male's bed made his wolf murderous. Then, softer, aching. "Are you hurt?" Yes. The truth slipped out before she could stop it. She was hurt. She was dying by inches, her wolf being smothered by the force bond while her true mate bond withered from neglect. "I can feel it, every moment." "It's killing me too. Tears slipped down her temples. We can't, there's no way. Tonight. The feast. I'll find a way. The connection cut off abruptly, leaving her gasping and hollow. By the time evening came, Grace looked like a corpse. The maids had done their best, applying cosmetics to hide the shadows under her eyes, pinching her cheeks to bring back some color. They dressed her in a deep green gown that clung to her frame that had already grown thinner, her collarbones too prominent. Beautiful, Marcus said when he saw her, but his eyes were cold and assessing. He knew something was wrong, he just didn't know what. The great hall blazed with firelight and celebration. Long tables groaned under the weight of roasted meats, fresh bread, autumn vegetables glazed with honey. The scent should have been appetizing. Instead, Grace's stomach turned. Marcus kept her close, his hand proprietary on her lower back as they moved through the crowd. The silver chain glinted between their wrists. They were still bound for the traditional week-long bonding period. Grace felt like she was moving through water. Every sound was muffled, every light too bright. Her skin alternated between burning and ice-cold. She smiled at the right times, nodded at the right people, and felt like she was dying. Then she saw him. Miko sat at the visiting dignitaries' table across the hall, surrounded by his pack members. He'd cleaned up from training, his dark hair still damp, wearing formal blacks that made him look even more dangerous. He wasn't eating, wasn't drinking, just watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle with heat. Their eyes met. The bond snapped taut between them, and Grace's breath caught. She could smell him suddenly, impossibly, even across the entire hall. Pine and winter and wild things. Her wolf surged, desperate, and she had to lock her knees to keep from swaying. Miko's hands gripped the edge of the table so hard the wood creaked. His eyes flashed gold. "You're shaking," Marcus murmured in her ear. "Sit down before you embarrass us." He guided her to their seats at the high table. Grace collapsed into the chair, her legs weak. A servant placed a plate in front of her, but she couldn't focus on it. All she could see was Miko. All she could feel was the bond pulling at her, urging her to go to him. Marcus made conversation with his father and the other counselors. Grace sat silent, pushing food around her plate. Each breath was an effort. The silver chain on her wrist felt like it was constricting, growing tighter. She was going to pass out. She could feel it coming, the darkness creeping in at the edges of her vision. "Excuse me," she whispered. She didn't wait for Marcus's permission before standing. She needed air. Needed space. Needed. The room tilted. Grace grabbed the table to steady herself, her knuckles white. Several people turned to look. Marcus's expression darkened with irritation. And across the hall, Miko rose from his seat like he was going to come to her. Their eyes locked. His face was a mask of barely controlled violence. His whole body coiled tight. His second in command, a scarred man with grey threaded through his dark hair, grabbed Miko's arm, holding him back. Grace could see them arguing, though she couldn't hear the words. "Grace!" Marcus's hand closed around her elbow, hard enough to bruise. "Sit. Down. I need air. You need to stop making a scene." But she couldn't breathe. The chain on her wrist was burning, the magic constricting. And Miko, she could feel his wolf battering against his control, feeling his desperate need to reach her. Not here, she thought frantically, praying he could sense it. Not like this. His jaw clenched. After an eternal moment, he sat back down. But his eyes never left her. Grace sank back into her chair, her whole body trembling. Marcus leaned close, his voice low and dangerous. "What's wrong with you?" "Everything!" She wanted to scream. "I'm dying because I'm chained to the wrong man." "Nothing," she whispered. "I'm sorry." She forced herself to take a bite of food. Forced herself to swallow, though it felt like swallowing glass. Forced herself to smile and nod as the feast continued around her. But across the hall, Miko watched her with dark, predatory eyes. and the incomplete mate bond between them pulsed like an open wound, bleeding them both dry. When Marcus finally stood to make a toast, his hand leaving hers for just a moment, Grace's eyes found Miko's again. His lips moved, shaping words she somehow heard despite the impossible distance. "Hold on, Grace." Then he was standing, making excuses to his pack members, and walking toward the gardens. Grace's heart hammered. This was madness. This was dangerous. But her wolf was dying, and he was the only cure. Marcus turned back to her, raising his goblet. "To unity," he said. Grace lifted her own glass with shaking hands. "To unity," she echoed. The wine tasted like ashes and lies. Miko was in his guest chambers when it started. He'd left the feast early, unable to watch Grace sit beside that bastard for another moment. Unable to see the way her skin had turned translucent, the way she trembled with fever. She was dying. He could feel it through the bond, the slow extinguishing of her wolf, her life force dimming like a candle in the wind, and there was nothing he could do. He paced the room like a caged animal, his wolf snarling and snapping at the confines of his skin. 3 days. 3 days since he'd locked eyes with her at that cursed ceremony, and felt his entire world shift on its axis. 3 days of agony, of feeling her pain echo through his bones, of wanting to tear apart anyone who stood between them. His second, Reese, had pulled him aside after the feast. "You need to leave. Tonight. Before you do something we can't take back." "I can't." Miko's hands had curled into fists. "She's dying, Reese. The bond, whatever magic they use to bind her to him, it's killing her." "Then challenge him, officially." "But this half-crazed stalking, he's a counselor's son. I'm a visiting alpha with no claim. They'd never allow it." Miko had gripped his beta's shoulder. "1 more day. We leave tomorrow. I just need..." He'd needed to see her one more time. Needed to know she'd survive this. Now, alone in his chambers as midnight approached, Miko stood at the window and stared out at the east wing. Her window was dark. She was probably already in bed. In his bed. In Marcus's bed. The thought made his wolf roar with rage. He pressed his forehead against the cold glass, trying to breathe through it, trying not to imagine. Then he felt it. The bond flared suddenly, viscerally, and Miko gasped as sensation flooded through him. Not his own. Hers. Hands on her skin. Cold hands. "Wrong hands." "No," Miko growled, his whole body going rigid. He could feel her revulsion. Feel her wolf snarling, thrashing, trying to claw its way out. Feel her heart racing with panic, not desire. Marcus. Marcus was touching her. Miko's vision went red. He could feel it through the bond, every unwanted touch, every moment of violation. Marcus's mouth on hers, tasting wrong. His hands on her body, feeling like acid on her skin. The weight of him pressing her into the mattress. And her desperate, silent screaming. Her wolf howled in anguish. Her body tried to reject him, to fight, but she was so weak, so sick. "Stop!" Miko thought frantically, his claws erupting from his fingertips. "Stop touching her! Get off her! Get off!" The door to his chambers exploded inward. Reese stood in the doorway, eyes wide with alarm. "Miko, your eyes!" "I know." Miko's voice was barely human. His eyes would be pure gold now. His wolf too close to the surface. Blood dripped from his palms where his claws had pierced his own skin. "I can feel it. He couldn't say it. Couldn't give voice to what that bastard was trying to do to his mate. Through the bond, he felt Grace's nausea spike. Felt her stomach revolt. Good. Her body knew. Her wolf knew. Then came the pain. Grace's pain, sharp and burning, centered low in her abdomen. The mate bond rejecting the intrusion. The wrongness of another male's touch. It felt like being torn apart from the inside. Miko roared, the sound echoing through the guest wing. His bones began to crack, his body trying to shift. "Control it!" Reese slammed him against the wall. You shift now, you storm over there, and they'll kill you. Is that what you want? He's hurting her. She's already hurt. This doesn't help her. Through the bond, Miko felt the moment Grace's body gave up. The violent heaving. The taste of bile in her throat. The shame and horror as she scrambled away from Marcus, barely making it to the chamber pot before she vomited. He could feel her wolf now, not just snarling, but howling, keening. The mournful sound of a dying animal. And underneath it all, he felt her grief. Her despair. Because she knew, just as he did, that this would never work. Her body would never accept Marcus. The forced bond was destroying her from the inside out. He's going to kill her, Miko whispered, his body shaking with the effort of staying human. The magic, it's not just binding her to him, it's severing her from her wolf, from me. Rhys's grip loosened slightly. His expression shifted from alarm to grim understanding. Fated mates can't be separated, not without consequences. She's the consequence. She's paying the price for their political games. Through the bond, he felt Marcus's cold anger, heard his voice, muffled by distance, but clear enough through Grace's ears. Is there someone else? Miko held his breath. No. Grace's lie tasted like ash through the bond. Marcus's suspicion, his frustration, the way he looked at her like she was a disappointing purchase. Then, finally, blessedly, he left, went to sleep in a different room. The moment the door closed, Grace collapsed. Miko felt her curl into herself on the cold bathroom floor, shaking, crying silently. Her pain was a living thing, sharp and suffocating. Not just physical, though, her body ached from the rejection, from the forced bond's retaliation, but soul deep, grief and shame and longing all twisted together. I'm sorry, she thought into the void. I'm so sorry. She wasn't apologizing to Marcus. Miko pressed his hand against his chest, feeling like his heart was being crushed. I have to go to her. You can't. Rhys, listen to me. His beta's voice was firm but not unkind. What happens if you go to her now? You think Marcus won't have guards? You think they won't stop you? And even if you reach her, what then? You complete the bond while she's still wearing that chain. The competing magic could kill you both. Miko knew he was right, hated that he was right. Then what do I do? His voice broke. How do I help her? You find out how to break that chain. Through the bond, Miko felt Grace finally drag herself off the bathroom floor. Felt her rinse her mouth with water that tasted like copper. Felt her crawl back into that massive bed, alone and shivering despite the blankets. She was thinking of him. He could feel it, her consciousness reaching out through the bond, seeking him like a lifeline. I'm here, he thought, pouring everything he had into the connection. I'm here, and I won't leave you. He felt her breath catch, felt the tiniest spark of warmth in her chest. She'd heard him. Somehow, impossibly, she'd heard him. Miko, his name in her thoughts, and it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever felt. Sleep, he urged gently. I'll keep watch. And he did. All through the long night, Miko stood at his window, his consciousness wrapped around hers through the bond, keeping the nightmares at bay. Every time her pain spiked, he breathed through it with her. Every time her wolf whimpered, he answered. When dawn broke, he'd made his decision. We're not leaving tomorrow, he told Rhys. His second didn't look surprised. The council won't like it. I don't care. Miko's voice was steel. That chain there has to be a way to break it. Witch magic, blood magic, something. And I'm going to find it. And if Marcus tries again, he will. Miko's jaw clenched. Her body will reject him every time. But eventually, he'll realize why. And when he does, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. They both knew what would happen when Marcus discovered the truth. The question was whether Miko could break the chain before that happened. Through the bond, he felt Grace wake. felt her immediate awareness of him, her consciousness seeking him out. The connection was stronger now, deepened by shared suffering. "Good morning," he thought. He felt her surprise, her cautious hope. Then, softly, "You stayed. Always." One word, but it was a vow, a promise written into his bones. Whatever it took, however long it took, he would free her from that chain, from that forced bond, from Marcus, or he would die trying. From across the estate he felt Grace's response. Not words, but pure emotion, gratitude, longing, and something that might have been love if they'd had the time to nurture it. "Hold on," he urged. "Just hold on a little longer." Outside, the sun rose on another day of hell. But now, at least, they were facing it together. The council meeting was supposed to be routine. Grace sat beside Marcus in the grand chamber, trying to stay upright. 5 days post-ceremony, and she looked like a ghost. Her gown hung loose on her frame. She'd lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. The shadows under her eyes were so dark that cosmetics couldn't hide them anymore. Her lips had taken on a greyish tinge. She was dying. Everyone could see it now. Marcus kept his hand on her thigh, a possessive weight that made her wolf whimper. The silver chain connected their wrists, the runes still glowing faintly. The blistered skin beneath had started to fester, red and angry and refusing to heal. Councillor Thorne droned on about trade routes and border disputes. Grace couldn't focus on the words. Everything sounded like it was coming from underwater. Her heartbeat was irregular, skipping and stuttering. Through the bond, she felt Miko's alarm. He was somewhere in the building closer than he should be, monitoring her through their connection. "Stay with me," his voice whispered through her mind. "Trying," she thought back weakly. "The unity of our packs," Councillor Thorne was saying. "The success of this alliance." Success? A voice cut through the chamber, sharp and clear. Everyone turned. Councillor Helena stood, her silver hair braided in the traditional style of the old ways. She was ancient, one of the first-generation wolves, and her authority was absolute. Even Thorne didn't interrupt her. "Look at her," Helena said, her voice ringing with disgust. She pointed directly at Grace. "Look at what we've done." Marcus stiffened beside Grace. His father's expression turned thunderous. "Helena," Thorne warned. "This is not what? Not the time for truth?" Helena's eyes blazed. "That girl is dying. Anyone with eyes can see it. Anyone with a wolf can feel it." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Grace's cheeks burned with humiliation, but she was too weak to care. "Lady Grace is adjusting to the bond," Marcus said smoothly. "It's not uncommon for—" "Don't." Helena's voice cracked like a whip. "Don't insult us with lies, boy. I've lived 300 years. I know what a mate bond looks like, and I know what a forced bond looks like. And I know what happens when you chain a wolf to the wrong mate." The chamber went dead silent. Grace felt her heart lurch painfully. Through the bond, she felt Miko go absolutely still, his attention laser-focused on what was happening in this room. Councillor Thorne rose slowly, his face darkening. "You overstep, Helena." "Do I?" The old woman descended from her seat, moving with the grace of a predator despite her age. She walked directly to Grace and Marcus, her gaze never wavering. "Or have we all been overstepping for far too long?" She stopped in front of Grace, studying her with ancient, knowing eyes. Then she reached out and gently lifted Grace's wrist, the one bound by the silver chain. Grace gasped as pain lanced up her arm. "Witch magic," Helena said, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "Blood runes, binding spells. You didn't just arrange a political marriage, you forced it. You used magic to override the moon's will." "The moon's will is not always practical," Thorne said coldly. "We are leaders. We make difficult choices for the good of our people." "The good of our people?" Helena's laugh was bitter. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each counselor. Is this who we've become? So hungry for power that we'd corrupt sacred magic? So desperate for control that we'd murder our own people? Murder? Marcus surged to his feet. That's absurd! Grace is my wife! Grace is dying! Helena's shout echoed off the stone walls. Her wolf is being suffocated. Her life force is draining away. Because you bound her to the wrong mate, and her body knows it. Her wolf knows it. The moon herself knows it. Grace felt tears slip down her cheeks. Someone was finally saying it. Finally seeing it. Every wolf in this room can sense it. Helena continued, her voice dropping to something more dangerous. Can smell the sickness on her. The wrongness. But we've all been too cowardly to speak up. Too afraid of political consequences. Too invested in this alliance to admit what we've done. She turned back to Thorn, and her expression was withering. You used witch magic to bind this girl. Did you think there would be no consequences? Did you think you could chain a fated mate bond without repercussions? Fated mate bond? Marcus's voice was sharp. Grace has no... She does. Helena's eyes flashed, and he's standing right outside this chamber. The doors burst open. Miko stood in the entrance, flanked by Reese and 2 other North Coast wolves. His eyes were pure gold, his wolf barely contained beneath his skin. He looked wild, dangerous, and absolutely done with waiting. Alpha Miko, Thorn said icily, you were not invited to this council meeting. I don't care. Miko's voice was a growl. His eyes found Grace's across the room, and the bond between them fled so bright that several nearby wolves gasped, actually seeing the connection shimmer in the air between them. Fated mates. Undeniable. Impossible to hide now. Marcus's hand tightened painfully on Grace's arm. You? Yes, Marcus, me, Miko confirmed. He took a step into the chamber, and wolves automatically moved aside. The air around him crackled with barely leashed violence. Your forced marriage bond is my fated mate. And your chains are killing her. Lies. But Marcus's voice wavered. Is it? Helena gestured to Grace. Look at her, Marcus. Really look at her. She's been your wife for 5 days, and she's wasting away. Her wolf rejects your touch. Her body revolts in your presence. Because the moon chose someone else for her, and you tried to override that choice with magic and politics. We did what was necessary, Thorn started. You did what was convenient. Helena slammed her palm on the table, and the sound cracked through the room like thunder. You saw a powerful alpha, a potential threat, and you found a way to neutralize him. By chaining his mate to your son. By corrupting witch magic for political gain. By sacrificing this girl's life for your ambitions. She looked around the chamber, her expression fierce and unyielding. Is this what we've become? Is this the legacy we want to leave? A pack that uses mate bonds against their rivals to make them compliant? Several councillors looked away, shame colouring their weathered faces. She won't survive another week, Helena said quietly, but her words carried to every corner of the silent room. Maybe not another day. The forced bond is killing her wolf. And when the wolf dies, so does the human. Is that what you want, Thorn? Your son's wife dead before the bonding week is even finished? That's the alliance you're so proud of? Through her greying vision, Grace saw something flicker across Marcus's face. Not love, he'd never loved her, but fear. Fear of the scandal. Fear of being known as the councillor's son, whose wife died within days of their wedding. There must be a way to adjust the bond, Marcus said. But he sounded uncertain now, almost desperate. There's only one way. Helena's voice was final. I will break it. I will free her. And there will be consequences for those who corrupted the moon's magic. You don't have the authority, Thorn began, his face purpling with rage. I'm invoking the old law, Helena said quietly, but her voice carried absolute authority. The law that existed before councils, before politics, before power-hungry men decided they knew better than the moon. The law that says no wolf shall be bound against the will of their fated mate. It is written in our oldest texts, carved into the standing stones, and it supersedes any council ruling. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Helena raised her hand, and silence fell immediately. I will perform the ancient ritual of severance. But no, this blood magic demands blood payment. Those who commissioned this corruption will pay the price. She turned to Grace with surprising gentleness in her ancient eyes. Are you ready, child? Grace's voice came out as barely a whisper. Please, I can't survive much longer. Helena nodded once, then began rolling up her sleeves, revealing arms covered in faded ritual scars. Then let us right this wrong. Let us show these counselors what happens when they play with forces they don't understand. Miko moved closer, though guards stepped forward to block him. He didn't take his eyes off Grace. Through the bond, she felt his fierce determination, his protective rage, his unwavering love. Hold on, baby, he urged through their connection. Just hold on a little longer. You're about to be free. Helena knelt before Grace and Marcus, her weathered hands reaching for the silver chain. The moment her fingers touched it, the runes flared with angry red light. This will hurt them, Helena said, glancing at Thorn and Marcus. The magic will rebound on those who commissioned it. That is the price of corruption. Wait. Thorn started forward, but other counselors held him back. Helena closed her eyes. Her lips began moving, chanting in the old language, words that predated modern wolves, words that tasted of moon and earth and ancient, primal power that made every wolf in the room want to bare their throats in submission. The temperature in the chamber plummeted. Frost spread across the windows in intricate patterns. The very air began to crackle and hum with wild magic. The runes on the silver chain began to glow brighter and brighter, pulsing with malevolent light. Marcus gasped suddenly, clutching his wrist. It's burning, Father. It's... Thorn doubled over, blood trickling from his nose. His face had gone deathly pale. Helena's chant grew louder, more powerful, filling the chamber with sound that seemed to come from the earth itself. The chain began to crack, hairline fractures spreading across each link like a spider's web. Stop this! Thorn choked out, more blood streaming from his nose now. Please! But Helena's voice never wavered. The ancient words poured from her like a river of moonlight and justice. Marcus screamed, collapsing to his knees. His wrist was blistering where the chain touched his skin, the flesh turning black. The chain shattered. The sound was like breaking glass, mixed with a wolf's howl, and a shockwave of pure magical energy exploded outward. Everyone was thrown back except Helena, who remained kneeling, her hands still extended, and Miko, who had braced himself, his entire focus on Grace. Marcus let out an inhuman shriek, clutching at his chest. My wolf, I can't feel my wolf! Thorn had fallen completely, convulsing on the floor. Blood streamed from his nose, his ears, his eyes. His wolf was being torn from him, piece by agonizing piece. You wanted to control the bonds? Helena's voice was cold and merciless as she finished the ritual. Then the moon strips you of yours. No more wolves, no more pack sense, no more magic. You'll live as humans until your bloodline ends, and it will end. The Thornhill line dies with your son. The silver chain lay in pieces on the floor, its runes dark and dead. Helena stood slowly, turning to the assembled counselors. Let this be a lesson. The moon's will cannot be corrupted without terrible cost. Remember this day. Remember what you witnessed here. She looked at Grace with gentle eyes. You're free now, child. The forced bond is broken. Grace stared at her wrist. The blistered, festering skin was so raw and bruised, it smelt of rotting flesh. The oppressive weight that had been crushing her chest for 5 days was lingering. She felt so grateful, but she was so weak, so very weak. Through the bond, she felt Miko's fierce joy and relief. You're free. You're finally free. Helena turned to him. Take her, Alpha. Take her home to your territory. That's where she needs to be now. Miko didn't need to be told twice. He crossed the chamber in long strides, and no one dared stop him now, not after what they'd just witnessed. Thank you, he said to Helena, his voice thick with emotion. I owe you everything. Helena smiled softly. Love her well, Alpha. That's all the thanks I need. Miko gathered Grace into his arms, lifting her easily. She was so light, so fragile. But she was his now. Finally, completely his. As he carried her toward the doors, Grace looked back one last time. Marcus was weeping over his father's still form. The other counselors stood in shocked silence. A cautionary tale written in broken men and shattered chains. Then Miko carried her through the doors with all its politics and pain disappearing behind them. They made it halfway down the corridor before Grace's body gave out. One moment she was conscious, aware of Miko's arms around her. His heartbeat strong against her ear. The next, darkness crept in at the edges of her vision, spreading like spilled ink. Miko! Her voice was barely a whisper. I don't feel right. You're okay. You're going to be okay. But she heard the fear in his voice. Reese, get the healers now! I'm so tired, Grace murmured. Her eyelids felt impossibly heavy. So tired. No, baby, stay with me. Grace, stay awake! But the darkness was calling to her, promising rest, promising an end to the pain. Her wolf, freed from the silver chain but weakened beyond measure, was silent. Still, too still. Her heart skipped, stuttered. Her pulse! Miko's voice, desperate and terrified. Someone help her, her pulses! Grace's heart stopped. The world went black. She was floating in darkness, peaceful darkness. No pain here, no silver chains, no forced bonds, just nothing. Grace, a voice in the void, familiar, beloved. Grace, come back! She didn't want to. It was so peaceful here, so quiet. Please, I'm begging you, come back to me. Miko. That was Miko's voice, fractured and desperate. But she was so tired. I love you. Do you hear me? I love you. You can't leave me. Not now. Not when we just found each other. Love. The word echoed through the darkness. She remembered love. Remembered golden eyes across a courtyard. Remembered a bond that felt like coming home. Maybe she could try. Just one more time. In the corridor, Miko laid Grace on the floor, his hands shaking violently as he checked for a pulse. Nothing. No! The word was ripped from his chest. No! No! No, Grace! Reese dropped to his knees beside them. Alpha! She's not breathing! Miko's fingers pressed desperately against her throat, searching, praying. Her heart, it's not beating. Helena appeared, moving faster than her ancient frame should allow. She knelt, her fingers finding Grace's wrist. Her face went grim. No pulse, she confirmed. Quick, you need to start compressions. Now! Miko's hands trembled as he positioned them on Grace's chest, lacing his fingers together. He'd seen this done before. He had to do this. He had to bring her back. He pushed down hard. 1, 2, 3. Her ribs flexed under his palms, and the sensation made him want to vomit. Come on, love, his voice broke. Come on. 4, 5, 6. Don't you dare leave me. 7, 8, 9, 15 compressions. He tilted her head back, pinched her nose, and breathed into her mouth. Her chest rose with his breath, then fell. Nothing. Again! Helena's fingers stayed on Grace's wrist, monitoring. Keep going! Miko's hands found her chest again. 1, 2, 3. His vision blurred with tears. 4, 5, 6. You don't get to die on me. 7, 8, 9. Not after everything we've been through. 10, 11, 12. He breathed for her again. Still nothing. How long? Miko gasped, returning to compressions immediately. 45 seconds, Helena said quietly. Too quietly. 1, 2, 3. Baby, please. 4, 5, 6. I need you. 7, 8, 9. Your pack needs you. 10, 11, 12. Don't leave me alone in this world. Another breath into her lungs. Nothing. Anything. Miko looked at Helena with desperate, wild eyes. She shook her head, her expression grim. Nothing. Keep going. His arms were burning, but he didn't care. 1, 2, 3. He would do this until his own heart gave out. 4, 5, 6. He would breathe for her forever if he had to. 7, 8, 9. Almost a minute, Helena warned. I don't care. 1, 2, 3. She's stronger than this. 4, 5, 6. She survived 5 days of that cursed chain. 7, 8, 9. She's not giving up now. He breathed for her again, his forehead pressing against hers. I can feel you in there. I know you're still there. Follow my voice. Follow the bond. Come back to me. Back to compressions. 1, 2, 3. His shoulders shook with suppressed sobs. 4, 5, 6. Please, Grace. 7, 8, 9. Please. Miko, Helena started. Don't. His voice was savage. Don't you dare say it. 10, 11, 12. Check again. Helena's fingers pressed harder against Grace's wrist, searching, hoping, praying to the moon. Nothing. 1 more round, she said softly. Then, no! Miko roared. I'm not stopping! I'm not stopping! 1, 2, 3. His mate bond was screaming, reaching desperately for hers, finding only darkness. 4, 5, 6. Grace. 7, 8, 9. He bent to breathe for her. Helena's gasp was sharp and sudden. Wait, wait! I feel something! Miko froze, afraid to hope. Faint, but there's a flutter. Helena's eyes were wide. Again, Alpha! Don't stop now! Renewed desperation surged through him. 1, 2, 3. That's it, baby. Fight your way back. 4, 5, 6. Come back. 7, 8, 9. Come back to me. He breathed for her, and her chest jerked on its own. A gasping, rattling breath tore from Grace's throat. Pulse! Helena's voice cracked with emotion. I have a pulse! Faint, but strengthening. Another breath from Grace. Ragged. Harsh. Beautiful. Colour began creeping back into her lips. Miko's hands hovered over her chest, trembling. Grace? Her eyelids fluttered, then opened. Silver eyes met gold. Miko. Her voice was rough, confused, but it was the most beautiful sound he'd ever heard. A sob tore from his chest, relief and joy and terror, all crashing over him at once. I've got you, baby. You're safe. He could feel it now, the mate bond. Truly complete without the chain's interference. Still struggling to snap into place. Her heartbeat synchronized with his, strong and steady. Her pulse is strong, Helena said. Tears streaming down her ancient face. You did it, Alpha. You brought her back. Grace's hand came up weakly to touch his face. You wouldn't let me go. Never. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips, tasting salt from both their tears. I will never let you go. Around them, the North Coast wolves had gathered Rhys, Alara, the healers. All of them had tears in their eyes. We need to move. Mara, the head healer, said urgently. She needs to get to Packlands. The bond will heal her faster there, but she's still weak. We need to go. Now. Miko stood carefully, lifting Grace into his arms. She was breathing. Her heart was beating. She was alive. The vehicles are ready, Rhys said. We can be home in 3 hours if we push it. Miko nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. He carried Grace down the corridor, through the estate, out into the courtyard where 3 black SUVs waited, engines running. He climbed into the back seat of the lead vehicle, never letting go of her. Mara slid in beside them, already pulling out medical supplies. Rhys took the driver's seat. Go! Miko ordered. Fast as you can. The SUVs peeled out of the courtyard, leaving the Thornhill estate behind in a spray of gravel. Grace stirred in his arms as they hit the main road. Where? Taking you home. Miko murmured against her hair. Taking you to North Coast territory. You're going to be okay. I promise. Through the bond, he felt her exhaustion, her weakness, but also her trust. Her love. Home, she thought drowsily. With you? Always with me, baby, he promised. Always. As the SUVs raced north through the fading light, Miko held his mate close and sent a silent prayer of thanks to the moon. She'd survived. Against all odds, she'd survived. Now he just had to get her home. The 3-hour drive passed in a blur of concern and careful monitoring. Mara checked Grace's vital signs every 15 minutes, pulse, breathing, temperature. Grace drifted in and out of consciousness. But each time she woke, Miko was there, his arms secure around her, his voice murmuring reassurances. Almost there. Almost home. When they finally crossed into North Coast territory, Grace's eyes flew open. Even in her weakened state, she felt it the land reaching out to her, welcoming her, recognizing her as Alpha's mate. Miko, she breathed, wonder in her voice. I can feel it. I know. He smiled, though his eyes were still shadowed with worry. Your wolf knows she's home. The SUVs pulled up to the pack house just as the sun was setting, painting the snow-capped mountains in shades of gold and pink. Pack members had gathered, not crowding, but present, waiting to welcome their Alpha's mate. Miko carried Grace inside, straight to his chambers. Their chambers now. Mara and 2 other healers followed, setting up their supplies. She needs rest, Mara said firmly, and fluids, and food when she can manage it. The mate bond will do most of the healing and work, but her body has been through trauma. It will take time. Over the next 3 days, Grace healed. The North Coast pack embraced her completely. Rhys's mate, Alara, brought her soft leathers and warm furs to wear. The pack mothers brought food and stories. The younger wolves came by with shy smiles and offerings of welcome. Grace spent her mornings walking the territory with Miko, her hand in his, learning the sacred places, the hot springs, the standing stones, the ancient trees where ceremonies were held. Her wolf grew stronger with each passing hour, fed by the wild magic of the land and the mate bond that thrummed constant and warm between them. On the 3rd evening, the pack held a gathering in her honor. The great hall blazed with firelight, timber walls decorated with pine boughs. Dozens of wolves assembled, all coming to properly welcome their Alpha's mate. To Grace, our Luna. Rhys raised his horn of mead. Who reminds us all that the moon's will cannot be corrupted? And to Helena, who honored the old ways when others had forgotten them. The pack erupted in cheers. Grace felt her cheeks heat, but she held her head high. These were her people now, her family. Across the hall, Miko watched her, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. Pride, possessiveness, love, and a deep, patient hunger that had been held in check while she healed. Their eyes met, and the bond flared hot and bright. She was ready now. After the gathering, after the last well-wishers had departed, Miko led her back to their chambers. He closed the door, and the air immediately shifted, charged with anticipation and need. "Grace," his voice was rough. "If you're not ready, I'm ready." She turned to face him. "I've been ready since the moment I saw you." His control shattered. He crossed the room and kissed her like he was drowning and she was air. Not gentle, they were past gentle. This was raw and desperate and right. Grace gasped against his mouth, her hands fisting in his shirt. The mate bond flared between them, flooding her with sensation, his desire, his need, his love. "I need you," she whispered. "I need to feel you. I need to complete this." Miko lifted her easily, carrying her to the bed piled with furs. He laid her down with reverent care, his hands shaking slightly despite the hunger she could feel thrumming through the bond. "I almost lost you." His voice was rough as he traced the line of her jaw, her throat, his touch achingly gentle. "When your heart stopped in that corridor, Grace? I've never been so terrified in my life. I'm here." She caught his hand, pressing it against her chest where her heart now beat strong and steady. "Feel that? I'm alive. I'm here with you." His eyes darkened, pupils blown wide. "I can feel it through the bond, your heart, your breath, everything." He lowered his head, trailing kisses along her collarbone. "I need to feel all of you, need to know you're real." "Then feel me," she whispered, her fingers threading through his hair. "I'm yours." His mouth moved lower, each kiss a promise, a claim. Grace's breath hitched as his hands explored her body with increasing urgency, mapping every curve, every hollow. When his fingers finally unlaced her dress, sliding the fabric away, his sharp intake of breath made her shiver. "Let me look at you." His gaze traveled over her like a physical touch, worshipful and hungry all at once. "Let me memorize every inch of you." When skin finally met skin, his bare chest against hers, the bond exploded with sensation. Grace cried out, overwhelmed by the intensity of feeling not just her own pleasure, but his, their sensations doubling and echoing through the completed connection. "Miko, I can feel. I know. I feel it too." His voice was strained. "The bond, it's like coming home. It's us, Miko. Finally us," she finished. He entered her slowly, carefully, his eyes never leaving hers, and the moment they joined, the bond clicked fully into place, complete, perfect, right. Grace's wolf howled in triumph. Miko's wolf howled in reply. They moved together, finding their rhythm, the bond amplifying every touch, until Grace couldn't tell where she ended and he began. His pleasure was hers. Her joy was his. They were one. When they shattered together, the bond blazed so bright that wolves throughout the territory felt it, their alpha claiming his mate, completing what the moon had destined. Afterward, they lay tangled together, breathing hard, hearts beating in perfect sync. "I love you," Miko whispered against her hair. "From the moment I saw you, I loved you." Grace tilted her face up to kiss him softly. "I love you too. Even when I was chained to someone else, even when I thought we'd never have this, I loved you. You'll never be chained again." His arms tightened. "Never bound to anyone but me. And that's a bond you can break anytime you want." "I won't want to." She smiled against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. "This is where I belong. With you. This is home." "Home," he agreed, kissing her forehead. Through the windows, the full moon rose over the mountains, blessing them with silver light. Grace's wolf stirred contentedly, finally at peace, finally whole. The mate bond hummed between them, perfect and unbreakable, not through magic or chains or politics, but through choice, through love. In the morning, when they woke wrapped in each other's arms, Grace knew this was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, questions about the alliance, politics to navigate. But they would face it together, as mates, as equals, as the moon had always intended. Miko traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder, and through the bond, she felt his contentment, his peace. "What are you thinking?" she murmured. "That I'd burn down 1,000 kingdoms for you," he said simply. "That I'd challenge 1,000 councils. That you were worth every moment of agony, every second of waiting." Grace's eyes shone. "Show me again." His smile was wicked and warm. "Gladly." And as dawn broke over the North Coast territory, as their pack stirred beyond their walls, Grace and Miko claimed each other once more, not just with bodies, but with souls. Two halves finally, perfectly whole. The mate bond sang between them, a melody as old as the moon herself. And it was beautiful. That's the end of this tale. But in the world of the supernatural, there's always another shadow waiting. Thank you for staying with me through every twist, turn, and heartbeat. If you enjoyed the ride, there's more waiting for you. Take a look at the other audiobooks on this channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more magic, monsters, and stories that go bump in the night. Until next time, stay curious and brave and never stop listening.